Hello everyone, I'm back again, and today we're going to make a rainbow in a glass. And by doing this experiment, we're going to learn about density. Do you know what density means? Density describes how compact something is in relation to its weight, how much it weighs, or mass, and its size, or volume. So let's think about this. If you have two things that are the same size but have different weights, the one that is the most compact is going to be the densest. So imagine this. Let's say that you have a 6-inch feather and you have a 6-inch brick. The brick weighs about 5 pounds and the feather weighs 3/100 of an ounce. So the brick's much heavier than the feather. How many feathers do you think it would take to make up a pound? Well, if you do the math, it's around 454 feathers. It would take that many feathers to add up to one whole pound. But what about the brick? Well, the brick already weighs more than a pound. So just one sliver of the brick, about 1/5 of the brick, would already be 1 pound. So which one do you think would be more dense? It's the brick. If you said the brick, you're right, because they're the same size, but it would only take a little piece of the brick to add up to a pound. So the brick is much more compact than the feathers. So now we're going to do this experiment so you can actually see density. So for the experiment, I have these little glasses. If you've watched the other experiments, you know that I like these little glasses. They're all labeled. I have one labeled red with a 0 because I'm not going to add any sugar to this cup. Later, you'll see what I mean. I have one labeled yellow with 1. One says green, 2. And another one says blue, 3. So I have 4 glass cups. If you don't have little glass cups like this, you could use Dixie cups or any small cups you might have at home. I have a packet of food coloring. So I have red, yellow, green, and blue. I have a tablespoon. I have a spoon that I'll be using as an unusual tool a little later on. I have a stick so I can stir because we're going to be mixing. I have a small little dish of sugar because we're going to be using sugar by the tablespoon. So this has sugar in it. I have a nice narrow cup or vase. These are easy to find at the dollar store, or maybe if you ask your mom or dad, they might have a nice narrow sort of vase or glass that you can use. But if not, it's okay to use like a small jam jar or something, but it shows up really nice in something like this. And I have a teapot because I'm going to be pouring water, and I thought this might be easier. So let me get my hot water. It's much easier to do this experiment if you use some hot water. So make sure you have a grown-up with you if you're using microwaved water, because you don't want to get burned. And you know what? Actually, I think I will use my tablespoon instead of my teapot, and you'll see what I mean. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my my tablespoon. And remember I said I have numbers on all my cups. I'm going to put the number of tablespoons that the cup says in each cup. So in the first cup is this one. I don't put any sugar in this one. In the next cup, I put 1 tablespoon of sugar in my cup. So there's 1. In the third cup, it says 2. So we're going to do 2. 1, 2 tablespoons. And the last one says 3, so I will do 3. 1, 2, and pick up my dish a little, get my spoon in there. 3. So now I have the right amount of sugar in each cup. Now I'm going to take my tablespoon and I'm going to dip it into my measuring cup. Each cup that I have here needs 3 tablespoons of water in it. So 1, 2, 3. Now I'm going to do 3 in the next cup. 1, 2, and 3, and 3 in the third cup. 1, 2, 3, and 3 in the last cup. 1, 2, and 3. Now, I'm going to take my stick, and I can skip the first cup because it's just water. I'm going to mix the other cups. What I want to do is stir really well so that all the sugar dissolves or blends with the water well enough that I no longer can even tell that the sugar, I shouldn't see any crystals of sugar anymore. It should just all blend in so well you wouldn't even know the sugar's in there. Okay, so that one is completely dissolved. Now I'll do the next one. And the more sugar I have in the cup, it takes a little bit longer to get it all mixed really well in there. So it might take me a second here to get this all. So really what I'm making right now is a sugar water. It's really sweet water. Okay, I think I've gotten that one all dissolved. I don't see any more crystals of sugar floating around at the bottom. Okay, now the last one has 3. This one will take the longest to stir because we put 3 scoops or tablespoons of sugar in here. So it'll take a bit of stirring to get it all mixed completely into the water. So what's happening right now as I'm stirring, the sugar is soluble. That means it can dissolve into the water. So water molecules are kind of far apart. And when you put the sugar in there, the sugar molecules can actually fit in, so to speak, between the water molecules and dissolve. And it's like, you don't see the sugar anymore because it's dissolved and blended completely with the water. I've almost gotten it. This one's a little bit stubborn. It's close. Like I said, the last cup you have to stir a little while. But once you do, you'll know because you won't see the sugar floating anymore. I think I've gotten it. It might look a little tiny bit cloudy to your eyes. You shouldn't see actual sugar crystals. Okay, I think that's pretty good. So now once you've done that, you're going to add 2 or 3 drops of your food coloring into each glass. Make sure you put the color that the glass says in each cup. So my first cup says red, so I'm going to do a couple of drops of red. And then I'm going to do a couple of drops of yellow in the second cup. And I bet you can guess that I'm going to do 2 drops of green in the third cup. And finally, in the last cup, I will do a couple drops of blue. And just like with the sugar, I need to mix my food coloring a little bit in here. So there's my red. Hopefully you can maybe see that's red. And then I have yellow. So there's my yellow. And I have green. There's my green. And finally, blue. There. So I have 4 different colors of sugar water, and one is just red water. It doesn't have any sugar at all. So I'm going to, next I will be putting some of my sugar water in each cup. So I will put 2 tablespoons of blue sugar water in my nice narrow vase. So 1, I'm going to do blue at the bottom. So there's my blue. I'm going to rinse my spoon real quick. And then I'm going to get some green. And I can't hold up my vase because I am going to take this spoon and I'm going to put it at the top of my vase and pour the green over the top of the spoon. That's really important because what we're trying to do is get the different colors of sugar water to float on top of each other. So we don't want it to plunk right down in because then it will try to, the sugar waters will try to dissolve together. But if we're gentle, I think we can make them float. Let's see. I gotta grab a little more because I'm messy and I didn't get it all in my cup here. I'm gonna rinse. And I'm gonna get some yellow. And my spoon. This is the trickiest part of the whole thing. And let me just see. Guess what? I'm going to start over because I wasn't gentle enough, so I've got to try again. Sometimes that happens, but it's okay because I have lots of water. So we'll start with the blue. The blue one you don't have to worry about being too careful. And we'll do the green. And this is where it gets tricky. Just gonna go really slow this time. And it's working. Okay, now I got my green, and I'm gonna do my yellow. Notice how slowly I'm going. At this point, I'm just very slowly pouring it in down the side of the glass, the inside of the glass. Very, very gently and very slowly. Another thing that sometimes works well if you have a pipette or a syringe without this actual syringe. Sometimes people have those for, if you have pets, you might have one. And you would still slowly add the color by putting it down the side of the glass. Got it. Okay. And now the last one is just red, and it's just water, no sugar. Okay. Now, I don't know, I'm hoping you'll be able to see this. Let me see. Do we have a light? No, my light's burnt out. I don't know if you can see this really well at home, but let me move my. So if you look closely, you should be able to sort of see that the blue is down at the bottom, the green is above the blue, the yellow's really hard to see, but the red's on the top. So that's a rainbow in a glass. What's going on? How come this works? Well, this is showing you about density. So when we put the sugar into the water, when you add the sugar and you stir, the volume of the water changes, but just barely. Like it's not even, it doesn't change in its size enough for you probably to even notice with your bare eyes. If we had some really fancy measuring tools, you would see that, yes, the volume got a little bit bigger. It's a little bit bigger when you add the sugar, but not very much bigger. So the blue water is more dense because it has 3 tablespoons of sugar in it than the green water, which only had 2. And then, of course, the yellow water only had 1 scoop of sugar in it. So it's less dense than the green water. And just plain water, of course, is going to be the least dense. And the denser something is, then the water, it's going to sink below the water. It's going to be able to be its own layer. And the other layers are floating on top of the densest layers. So it's a way you can actually see density in action. So now, why don't you try this experiment at home? If you do different, if you use different kitchen materials, do you think this will work? What do you think? Well, if you think it would be fun to try some different things, then congratulations, because you're thinking like a science. Try things like sugar, or maybe baking powder or baking soda. Will you get the same results? Does it work the same way? What happens if you use something like flour or pepper? Will it work then? I have a little hint for you. Remember when I talked about solubility? Some things are water soluble. That means when you put them in and you stir, stir, stir for like 2 or 3 minutes, they will dissolve into the water, and you won't be able to see that they're even in your cup anymore. They completely blend. But other things you could stir all day long and they're never going to be water soluble. They won't dissolve in your water. So keep that in mind if you try some other materials with this science experiment. So I hope you enjoyed A Rainbow in a Glass. See you next time. Bye.